Shalom, shalom, and welcome to the last day of Earth and Fire Wilderness Torah's Hanukkah online series. I'm Rabbi Zelig Golden with Wilderness Torah, and it's so great to be here once again. Hanukkah Sameach. Today is the final day of Hanukkah. At sunset today, the festival of lights ends, and I'm grateful to be here with you. So if you would care to put in the chat who you are and where you're zooming in from, that'd be great. And perhaps you can share one thing that was a highlight from your Hanukkah so far. And as you're sharing with each other, I'm going to dive in and offer one final teaching for Hanukkah. So we've been on a journey of understanding some of the deeper dimensions, earth and fire, of where some of the teachings come from around Hanukkah and how we relate to this time of year through the Chanukiah, through the lights. And we began discussing the nature of light and dark, looking at the Hebrew calendar and the deep symmetry and balance that the Hebrew calendar provides. And at this time of year, as we're coming into the darkest night of the year, the new moon of Tevet, which just passed 2 nights ago, we bring in the light, the 6th and 7th candles. And then we go one beyond, the 8th night, as we're approaching those days that are bringing more light. And as I've said about the Hebrew calendar in the past, this is medicine. Sometimes you need the medicine in the moment itself. Like perhaps on this 6th night of Hanukkah, during Rosh Chodesh Tevet, you really understood darkness because you're in a dark place yourself. Certainly world events are encouraging us to contemplate darkness these days. But maybe that's true in your personal life. Or maybe it's not true. Maybe it's the case that things in your life are swimmingly beautiful. Amen. And even so, perhaps sometime a year from now, perhaps it won't be during Hanukkah time, maybe it'll be some of the time, you'll need to understand darkness and how it's possible to cultivate light even in those darkest times. So Hanukkah, in its essence, you might say, as teachings, a teaching of hope, that we know darkness will come. We also are instructed to remember the possibility that we can kindle the light, because the light also inevitably returns. As our ancients taught us, Gam ze yavor, this too shall pass. Darkness will turn to light, and light will turn to darkness, and darkness will turn to light again. The cycles of life continue. And as some of our teachers this week taught us about the Or Ganuz, the hidden light. But during the first days of creation, there was a light that began to animate the world. They call it the primordial light. This light of creation, not necessarily a visible light, because interestingly, the first light for the world comes the first day of creation, but it's the 4th day of creation when the sun, moon, and stars are created, leaving us with the mysterious question, what are these different lights? Well, the Or Ganuz, the hidden light, is that deeper primordial light of creation, that light that is behind the sparkles in one's eyes. It's the light we rekindle at Hanukkah. It's the light, Rabbi Jill teaches, that is passed through the olive oil that came from the olive branch that came on Noah's Ark, that was first planted and then cultivated through the generations until it became the oil that provided the miracle of Hanukkah, a flask of light for one day that lasted 8. That light comes from the olive tree that came from Noah's Ark, the Midrash teaches. Wow. But how does that Or Ganuz, that hidden light, live within you? That is the question of Hanukkah today. And as Rabbi Dan took us through the deep history of Hanukkah, teaching us about Greek conquest, about Greek culture, and how many of our ancestors at that time were embracing Greek culture, the evolution of culture, assimilation, the good, the bad, and the ugly of assimilation, and the struggle and the rebellion, the wrestling with our identity. And how do we wrestle? How do we evolve by staying rooted in our own culture? And how the light of Hanukkah reminds us of the paradox, the challenges of understanding conflict and conflict, peace and peace. And then Rabbi Saralea brought into the understanding of Hanukkah, reflecting the light of our own soul, as the Proverbs say, Torah, ner the Torah mitzvah, or that the candle is light, and the mitzvah, the mitzvah is the candle, and the Torah is light. That it's like the things that we are instructed to do, like lighting the candles. That's the rhythms of life. But then the deeper truth, the Torah, is light. That something comes through that is deeper, is universal, is magical. And so I want to bring in that spirit one last teaching for our Hanukkah journey, something for us to contemplate. And I want to go back to the story of the Maccabees. I'm going to show you my screen. And this is a source sheet that I provided on the first day of the series. And I've added one last source that you can find. And so Rick or Robbie, if you don't mind sharing the source sheet, you can see this source if you want to go back to it. This is a very little known story from the book of Maccabees, considered apocrypha, some of the ancient writings that didn't make it into the canon, but are deeply instructive. So in the book of Maccabees, this is the story of the rebellion and the recovery. It says, and how in our lives to celebrate the day of the dedication of the altar. This is Hanukkah Mizbeach. The word dedication here, whoa, come back. Sorry about that. The word dedication in Hebrew is Hanukkah. So the essence of Hanukkah is a dedication, a remembering of the dedication of the temple, a rededication of the temple, really. And it says, you will celebrate it like the days of the festival of Sukkot. What? You'll celebrate like the days of the festival of Sukkot? Well, recall that the sacking of the temple by the Greeks and the inability for us to celebrate prohibited Israel from celebrating Sukkot, Hachag, the most important festival of the year. And so it was on the 25th of Kislev, we are taught that we were able to return to the temple and do the most important thing we did every year in the temple, to celebrate Sukkot. This references teachings I love to share that Sukkot, not Yom Kippur, is the most important holiday of the year. Because when we rededicated the temple, the first thing we did was brought Sukkot back. So it's Sukkot in winter. That's what Hanukkah really is. And it says, for when our forefathers were exiled into Persia, the holy priests. So when our forefathers were exiled into Persia, this is saying when the Greeks took over our temple, that's what this is saying. The holy priests secretly took the fire from the altar and they hid it in a deep pit to guard it. So here the book of Maccabees is saying something powerful, that our spiritual leaders, they hid the fire, they took the fire and they hid it. And it was at the end of many days when God told us to return. And at that time, the priest took and the holy took the descendants of the priests who hid the fire, and he sent them to search for the fire. But when it was told to us that they didn't find the fire, rather, they found frozen water beneath it. They found frozen water beneath the place where the fire had been hidden. Nehemiah commanded them to draw the water and to bring it. And when they offered, then they put the sacrifice, the offering, like they would do on Sukkot. And remember, for Sukkot, it was 13 bowls on the altar, on the sacred fire, the first day, and descending in number. So I'm wondering what that offering looked like those first days of Hanukkah. But it says when they were offering the sacrifices, Nehemiah commanded them to throw the water on top of the wood and on top of the sacrifice. And that is what they did. And after they finished pouring the water from the place of the hidden fire, the sun came out over the land and the clouds scattered, and behold, the fire of God consumed the sacrifice. and everyone fell on their knees in awe. They prostrated themselves until the whole sacrifice was consumed. What? Water on the sacrifice? The sun came out, and then the sacrifice was consumed in fire? This, my friends, is the deep story of Hanukkah. Eish tamid tukad al hamizbeach. It says in Leviticus, a fire you should put on the altar, it shall never go out. This sacred fire is at the center of being the people of Israel, of being a Jewish people. So important that when they knew the temple was going to fall in the face of the Greeks, they hid that fire. And their faith was so strong, the faith Nehemiah had at that time was so strong that just the water from the place of where that fire was hidden, to put that water where the fire should have gone, and then to have faith and bring the sacrifice anyways. And then the clouds parted, the sun came out, and the offering, the water from the sacred fire, burst into flame, and the sacred fire was miraculously lit again. Now, if this is not a story of faith and hope, I don't know what is. In a time when it seemed impossible, yeah, one canister of oil lasting 8, but the deep history story is actually a fire that had been hidden, coals that had been hidden. The water from that offered back on the altar, and the faith to bring the flame again, and it comes. So Hanukkah, dedication, at its essence, is a story of faith, a story of deep miracles, the belief that miracles can happen and that they do, in fact, happen. So I hope this Hanukkah has been that for you and continues to bring source of joy and faith. And I ask you to take a moment. Take a moment to go inside. And imagine being one of those priests, one of those sacred people. Imagine being instructed to go back to the place of the hidden fire. Maybe you imagine going back to the historical place of the hidden fire, or maybe it's a place inside of you where there's something secretly hidden, a fire waiting to be ignited. And imagine feeling like it would be impossible to kindle that flame again. But nonetheless, you try. But nonetheless, you bring that to the altar. The Sfara Emet, the late 19th century Hasidic master, said that this teaching, Eish Tamid Tukad Al Mizbeach, the fire on the altar should not go out, it is a commandment. But he said more so, it's a promise. That even when the temple fire went out, the fire on the altar burns in our hearts, each one of us. So imagining bringing that fire alive again. And then by some miracle, it comes alive. Imagine what that would feel like inside of your body. And so as we come to a close this Hanukkah, I want you to take a moment, and in the context of this story of hope, faith, and miracles, that sacred fire once out could come alive in such a miraculous way at this moment of rededicating the temple fire. What are you rededicating in your life? As we're coming away from the darkest night, and this year towards the shortest day, the solstice, but coming out of the dark nights and heading back into the light, how do you want to take the light we've been kindling during Hanukkah, and how do you want to rededicate your lives? Or to what do you want to rededicate your life? So I ask you to take a moment in the chat, or if you're seeing this in the recording, take a moment and consider. Yes, Hanukkah is a beautiful time of kindling candles and lights and eating latkes and spinning dreidels, but something deeper is possible here, that even when times are dark, Miracles in our lives are possible when we, with kavanah, intention, and faith, rededicate the altar of our lives. So what, my friends, are you wanting to rededicate to this year? Please share a bit here in the chat. I won't share the name, but I got one person saying, it's such a dark time. And this was so helpful because it's hard to stay hopeful right now. Indeed. And Beth says, rededicating myself to personal relationship with God. Another says, rededicating myself to nourishing our relationship and deep connection that we can share together. Rick says, rededicating myself to fostering meaningful local community. Amen. Rededicating myself to faith and loving kindness. Thank you, Mazel. And as more come in, I want to share that my interest is to rededicate myself to taking care of my body so that I can continue to be healthy, so that I can continue to grow, and that I can come back renewed to continue serving our community and wherever Hashem wants to deploy me. Prem says, rededicating to faith and hope, even when I can't feel it. Continuing to learn. And Eric and Johnny say, dancing again with joy after sudden death of a dear friend, Carl, who danced with joy as often as possible. Amen. So, dear friends, every year this medicine is possible, the medicine of rekindling light in darkness, bringing hope even when it feels like hope is perhaps not possible, that somehow a fire can come from frozen water when we have the deep roots and the deep faith. So I leave that teaching with you this Hanukkah. And now we're going to turn to close. And I want to say just a thank you so much to everyone who joined us during this Earth and Fire series, especially our teachers, to Erev Rav Page, Rabbi Dan Goldblatt, Rabbi Sarah Lai Schley, Rabbi Jill Hammer. I'm going to give thanks to Robbie and Rick, who coordinated the back end of all this. And now I want to offer you a short video just to share what this year-end teaching and the campaign to support Wilderness Torah's Building Resilience community, to meet a few of the voices who are being cared for. Some of them might be you in Wilderness Torah and who you're serving. So please, Robbie, let's tee up this video. Enjoy.
If not for Wilderness Torah, I wouldn't have experienced nearly the amount of healing that I have in my life.
What Wilderness Torah has done is given me a canvas on which to paint my own Judaism.
It feels unbelievably authentic and true.
It's an awesome community.
Beautiful intergenerational earth-based Jewish community.
You will have an experience you aren't going to have anywhere else. It's totally unique.
And then the whole community got together and made this absolutely exquisitely gorgeous central altar. And we're gonna open ourselves to the vulnerability of our hearts and call down the rain, help the earth receive the sky's love.
I love the nature teaching me skills in nature that I can use in my everyday life. Being able to create a fire and stay in the wilderness is really powerful.
Wilderness Torah has asked me to do is to go deep.
Exploring what it means to be an elder and to claim elderhood and to feel really positively.
It's just such a gift to really find a place where I feel deep belonging.
It's profoundly changed my life. I think I found my home, my Jewish home.
Wilderness Torah is home for
connecting to my heart in community.
Multi-generational village.
Deep cultural healing.
Remembering nature, connection, and community.
Wilderness Torah for me is home for lasting connections, authenticity, and vulnerability.
Reunions.
For friends and Jewish ritual.
Renewing lineages.
Wilderness Torah is home for coming back to the village.
That we would all give anything to be able to keep having Wilderness Torah for the rest of our lives and for our children's lives to grow up and understand Judaism through nature and understand nature through Judaism through this unique, profound Wilderness Torah lens.
Wilderness Torah is an amazing organization, and I'm so grateful for it. My future is going to be different because I was in the nature and because I was in the Wilderness Torah community, and it's going to be different for the better.
These kind of experiences you can't imagine. So come and invite yourself to be surprised.
Thank you so much. I love seeing some of the comments about the video. Beautifully done. Thank you for so many of you who bring your heart to make this resilient Jewish community possible. And we're going to close with a few words from one person who helps make this possible on a daily basis, a dear friend, a sister of mine, Caitlin Slisson, who is also on the Wilderness Torah board, and I can say is an OG part of Wilderness Torah from the early days. Thank you, Caitlin, for offering a few words before we close.
Happy to be here. Thank you so much, Zelig. Thank you for that beautiful teaching. It's really good to see you all. Wasn't that an awesome video? What I was curious about, put a heart or just wave your hands like jazz hands like this if you recognized yourself and your own story, even if you weren't featured in that video. Did you recognize those feelings about Wilderness Torah? Like, I have felt that. I have felt that sense of home. I have felt that sense of belonging. I have felt that sense of possibility. I think, one of the most unique and precious aspects of the work of Wilderness Torah is through such sensitive and caring and sort of far-sighted weaving of this community basket, there's a holding of everyone's experience as possible here. There's, this truly is a place for so many of us in all of our different stages of life and where we come from and our identities to find that belonging and that resilience. And I'm personally so grateful for, the holding that I've experienced in this space over the years, and seeing all the different kinds of leadership that are supported to emerge, the deep teachings, this week of just looking so deeply into the heart of what this holiday means, and every holiday that we celebrate together, having the opportunity to really feel into, the kind of healing and transformative energies that are available there. Wow, what a gift! What a space that we get to occupy together. And so in this moment of deep darkness in the world, and in this moment of, the darkness of the season, but just the fracturing and the sort of polycrisis that we're facing and that we're walking through, and that really threatens the roots of belonging and survival here on Earth. Like, I am feeling this theme of rededication today. I want to ask those of us who hear, those of us who are listening, for us to rededicate ourselves to this precious space that Wilderness Torah offers, to this precious weaving of connection and community and belonging and faith in the buried light of the fire, that we take action and we take steps that demonstrate our faith in that. And one of the ways that we can do that and to rededicate ourselves is with our money and with giving. And I know that everyone here is so generous, already has participated in supporting Wilderness Torah by signing up for this series. And I would ask today, if you're watching, if you're listening, if you're together with us live, if it's possible for you to offer some of your financial resources to this organization. We are aiming for 10,000, I believe, for this series, and we're quite close. I think 7,000 or just over 7,000 is what we've achieved so far. So if you are able to stretch, if you are able to share this, if you are able to inspire others today to give, to step forward in that way, we would be so appreciative. And if you're listening to the recording, and Robbie just put the donation link in the chat. Thank you, Robbie. And just thank you so much for your care, for your attention, for your generosity, and just wishing everyone a really healthy and beautiful and restorative holiday.
Thank you so much, Caitlin. And to each of you, thank you. Thank you for joining these days of Hanukkah. Thank you for listening to the recordings. And thank you for how you rededicate yourself to your light, to the light of the world, and to the light of Wilderness Torah. Chag Urim Sameach, may it be on this 8th day. Bask in the light of this festival of lights, and may you take it forward into the rest of your days. Thank you. Be well. I invite everyone to unmute themselves, go on gallery view, and say a Chag Sameach to each other. Thank you, and a lihitrot until we meet again.
Hanukkah linda está aquí, ocho candelas para mí. Hanukkah linda está aquí, ocho candelas para mí. Oh.